Hello, everyone. Welcome to our presentation for parental involvement in schools. Presentation was created by Jamal Brandy and me, Justin Nunn. I will take you through the first few points of our project so that you can kind of get an idea of what we were trying to do. So the problem that we thought to explore was immigrant families are struggling to be successful in our schools. We must analyze and restructure the way a family's involvement in their child's education is taken into consideration. So the purpose of our study is to inform stakeholders of effective strategies that will lead to better parental involvement and increase student achievement. Some of the most important studies that we looked at throughout our project started with Henderson and Mapp, who provide a standard definition of school achievement for us, and that would include in early education, proper social and motor skills, focusing on development of vocabulary and reading and language skills. As students move through their education journey and end up in secondary education in the high schools, achievement focuses on grades and GPA and attendance and behavior and acceptance into college. So that is our typical definition of student achievement according to Henderson and Mapp. Now, Erdiner in 2016 explains that parent involvement is one of the most important indicators of student success in school, which kind of led us down this path and said, maybe this is something worth looking at. Hill and Taylor in 2004 defined specific forms of parental involvement, specifically helping with homework, creating a positive home environment, and discussing day's events. They also explained that parent involvement has a positive effect and a long-lasting effect on children, in addition to providing information to parents regarding the learning objectives, which will enhance a child's academic experience and achievement. So Hill and Taylor was a big one for us. However, there was a counterpoint to Hill and Taylor, and that was Bacadano, Lopez, Alexander, and Hernand in 2013. They said that the typical idea of parent involvement and success typically do not consider parents' race, immigration, or class experiences. Instead, Hill and Taylor's approach to parent improvement calls for parents to be more involved in ways that supports the school's idea of involvement and success, while barely considering the parents at all, just kind of having them be passive observers in their child's education. And Barton, Drake, Perez, St. Louis, and George in 2004 kind of helped support Bacadano Lopez. School admin, teachers, counselors, and family members all make up student support structure. This support structure is necessary for students to succeed. However, typically parents are only seen as passive participants in their child's education, while the culture of the school typically is designed around middle-class, capitalist ideals, which often ignore the backgrounds of immigrants, who often are poor minorities who speak another language. So our research questions for this paper were primarily, what is the current partnership between school staff and parents? So this leads to some secondary questions. To what extent will increased parental involvement increase student achievement? And what effect will increasing parental involvement have on a school's climate?
Methodology. The students who participated in the study were in an intervention math class. There was a total of 15 students. There were 10 boys and 5 girls. They reflected 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. The students and their parents all come from low socioeconomic status. Parents were surveyed to determine the type of involvement they provide for their children. The survey ascertained the role the school plays in providing parents with the necessary resources to improve student achievement. The intervention began with having a meeting between the researcher, teacher, students, and parent participants. During this meeting, the teacher informed the parents that the goal is to have open communication, to build relationships, and for the participants to feel comfortable approaching the teacher with any questions or concerns they may have. The students were given a math assessment and a baseline established from the scores of the assessments. The researcher examined these results and looked for areas where the participants struggled and had a lack of comprehension. The teacher then created learning objectives for each of the participants based off the baseline assessment. The learning objectives were distributed to the students and communicated to their parent by their teacher. The students then worked on the learning objectives at home and also during class. The researcher explained in detail to the parents the objectives and assignments and supplied the parents with the required materials for their child. When parents had any questions or concerns, they contacted the teacher at any time. A quiz was given to the students every 2 days, and the teacher created different learning objectives based upon how the students scored on the quiz. The students and parents were informed of the progress and given the next learning objectives to complete. At the beginning of the third week, the teacher conducted another assessment of the students, which contained the same concepts as the baseline assessment given at the beginning of the intervention. The results from both assessments were compared and correlated.
Our first research question was, what impact does weekly communication between teachers and parents from low socioeconomic status families have on a student's academic achievement? We found that weekly communication with parents and students has a positive impact on student achievement. Prior to the intervention starting, the class average was 52%, which equates to an overall letter grade F. 53% of students scored below a 50%, and no students scored an A or a B. After the intervention, the class average rose 9% to an overall 61%, which is a letter grade D. Fewer students scored below a 50%. So after the intervention, only 27% of students scored below a 50%. Post-intervention, there was also a student who scored an overall average of a letter grade B. Research question number 2 findings. Our second research question was, what effect does this communication with parents have on their outlook on schools? We found that weekly communication with parents caused an undeniable positive outlook on their child's school and teacher. Prior to the intervention, 40% of parents felt teachers didn't inform them of their child's success. 57% of parents felt not valued or weren't even sure if the schools valued them. They also felt that communication was not clear from teachers and that they did not receive regular updates on their child's progress. After the intervention, 72% of parents strongly agreed, and 28% also neutrally agreed that the school was outstanding at staying in touch with them, which was an increase of 14%. The parents also felt that they received regular updates from their teachers, and that was 100% of the parents who felt this way. 86% of parents felt welcomed and that they were invited into the classroom. The parents also felt they received much clearer communication with teachers. 100% of them felt valued, and they also felt empowered to be more active in their child's education.
So some of our more significant findings came from the post and pre-intervention parental survey. And so we have a couple graphs looking at these questions. Specifically, question number 12 asked, I am given information about services to support my child's learning and behavior needs and enhance his or her talents. And so, while the graphs don't look crazy different, they are slightly different. We have the same number of parents who don't know in both the pre and post intervention, but you see that the number of parents who feel that they receive plenty of information actually went up to over 50%, while those who only neutrally agree fell to about 28%. So it was a pretty good increase. Question number 13 asked, my involvement in my child's education is valued at my school. And in the pre-intervention survey, less than 50% of parents strongly agreed, and only 28% of parents neutrally agreed, while 28% also did not know. After the intervention, all parents who were surveyed said that they felt their involvement was valued at school. So then we go to the baseline assessment results. This was an assessment given by the researcher to his students, both before and after the intervention. And while there are still a significant number of Fs in both assessments, you will see that in the post-intervention baseline assessment, we actually had a B. We had 2 C pluses where there was only 1 before, 1 C, and 2 Ds where there was only 1 D before. And the number of Fs dropped. So pretty awesome intervention, I think. Here we have for you a short video clip from PK, which stands for Parent Institute for Quality Education.
All of us here would agree that parents are the first teachers and the first leaders of children. And when you educate and empower them to be involved in their children's education, both at home and at school, it transforms the lives of children.
Next, conclusions and further research. Next, conclusions. Students are a common focus and stakeholders should be supporting each other in ways that lead to increasing student academic achievement. The historical model of parent involvement has been the district having a mandated policy and it's interpreted and implemented at the school site. Based on the research, the current model should be transformed into one where students are the central focus and stakeholders are corresponding and supporting each other in ways that will ultimately support students in increasing their student achievement. Parent involvement and parental engagement are 2 different concepts. Engagement goes well beyond involvement. Ultimately, you want to get to a place where parents are contributing a lot of ideas and energy to the process of becoming part of the joint vision for the school. When schools, quote unquote, involve parents, they're leading with their institutional self-interest and desires. School staff are leading with their mouths. When schools engage parents, they're leading with the parent self-interest and in an effort to develop a genuine partnership. In this instance, school staff is leading with their ears. When we're involving parents, the parent is generally directed towards completing tasks selected by the school staff. When we're engaging parents, the parent is considered a leader or a potential leader who is integral in identifying a vision and goals. The manner of communication has an impact on the level of parental involvement. Many parents feel that the phone call or face-to-face contact is too personal. Sometimes a phone call takes too much time out of a parent's day. A parent university it has and is becoming a promising nationwide program to help families develop knowledge and skills that enable them to be proactive in their children's learning and growth. Staff professional development. Staff professional development is an essential investment for both staff and parents in building the capacity to work with one another and with the community to support student achievement. Throughout the teacher interviews and surveys, the teacher expressed their understanding that parental involvement does lead to student academic success. Providing teachers with the know-how to train parents may result in more teachers willingly providing workshops in our literacy and math nights that are designed to train parents in assisting their child at home. Further research. Increased sample size of survey. The size of research, the lack of participation at times means that the results could show significant changes in percentages when only one or two students' scores change. At times, this may give the researcher a false sense of improvement. Increase the length of time in the intervention. Time constraints, just the time available to investigate a research problem and to measure change or stability over time is pretty much constrained. In order to get around this, the time constraints the time length needs to be lengthened. Manner of communication. Many parents do not like phone calls at home. The phone calls at home can be very intrusive to a busy schedule for parents. Many parents also associate phone calls with negativity towards their child. As educators, we need to change the manner in which we attempt to communicate with our parents, being open to other methods of forms of communication. Okay, duplicate the study at a non-Title I school. You just want to make sure that the results that you actually found are applicable to just other different types of schools. Maybe try it at a affluent school. Are you coming up with the same results?
There. I hope you enjoyed our time together today. You know, it seems harder and harder to just sit back and enjoy the finer things in life. Well, till next time. Ta-ta.